Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very odd impromptu episode of Angie Speaks. Let me know if you can hear me in the comments because I've got a new mic and I'm not quite sure how it will fare with StreamYard. So just like let me know that the audio is okay before I like start beginning. Um, but I'm just gonna kind of go on anyway before you like tell me. But yeah, thank you for coming. It's nice to see you all here. You guys haven't seen me for a while. I actually have been moving flats, and moving house is obviously like pretty stressful during a pandemic, and like we got the news from our landlord like 2 months ago that we needed to like move out of the place that we were living, so it kind of fucked up my plans completely for the channel because I had to focus all my energy into finding a new place immediately and also moving. And it's over now, which I'm really happy. We're semi settled. Like we're, as you can see, like we're sort of unpacked, kind of, not really. And we're also obviously buying a bunch of new stuff as well. Oh, thank you. Thanks for saying it looks amazing. Thanks for saying you love my hair. New flat, new hair, new me. But yeah, that's why the channel's been kind of quiet. But I'm working on something at the moment that should hopefully be out soon. It's quite a big video, kind of similar to my last one. It was like a 45-minute kind of deal. So yeah, it's taken like quite a while for me to produce as well. So bear with me, be patient. I still exist. And also for those of you on the channel who don't know, I also do a podcast called Low Society with Peter Coffin, Ashley, and my partner Jake. So we release 2 episodes a week. So I am still around and I am still doing stuff like pretty much every couple of days. We drop a new episode. So if you're looking for me in the interim between videos, then listen to Low Society. Great podcast, best podcast. People are saying very good things. I sound like Trump now. Someone asked, is my ukulele tune? It is. I do play it occasionally. It's more just like for decoration. Um, Someone asked where my cat is. My cat has gone gallivanting outside. We have a garden now, which is really nice. So he's loving it out there. Yeah. Angie San is great on the podcast. Thank you very much. Yeah, I love doing it. It's been so much fun, and it's been like a really good sort of form of fast food content for me to create while I'm like in between videos and stuff. Um, but yeah, like I'm literally like, I'm here. I'm still here. I'm still, producing content. It's been quite difficult too because there's been quite a lot of like shitty stuff that has happened in the last couple of months, and also just sort of the general political atmosphere has been terrible. And I guess that's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit today. It's been a struggle because the video that I'm making has it's about class reductionism, and that's one of the like major accusations that gets levied at me quite frequently. So I wanted to make like a proper breakdown about the subject matter, but do it in my typical sort of artistic, crazy, weird way that I normally do things. I didn't want to just make a talking head kind of hot take type of thing. So it's going to be sort of melded in with elements of pop culture and psychology, the whole shebang. But I wanted to really tackle that subject in like a holistic way. So I'm working on that. It also has a lot to do with culture war as well. So I'm working on that. But I've been really apprehensive about putting out the video, specifically because of how just toxic the environment is, especially when it comes to things that challenge the status quo of, the norms of like the liberal left. And especially for creators of color, if we don't toe the line of what the liberal left sort of expects us to toe, there are usually pretty dire repercussions, and it makes it very difficult to do the kind of work that I do. And I mean, even I tend to not necessarily engage as much with the community, quote unquote, because I'm not really for the whole sort of parasocial dynamic that these platforms encourage us to create. So like I don't want stans. I'm not looking for people who are like sycophantic about me, because it's not really about me at the end of the day. I try to keep to myself. I also live a pretty full life outside of YouTube, and I also lived a very full life before I got into making YouTube videos. So I try not to get too absorbed in like the community per se. But I feel like because I keep to myself and I'm not like constantly in people's faces and I'm not constantly streaming, and I then, a lot of narratives sort of get spun about me that I can't challenge because I don't really have a means to. I'm not like a streamer, and I'm not constantly like talking, and the podcast isn't just me. It's like it's three other people, and we are also mostly talking about current events. So I mostly just sort of take things on the chin, or use Twitter as like a vector to sort of explain myself. But obviously Twitter deals with social capital. It doesn't necessarily deal with the truth. So it's really difficult to tell what's true for most people, because social capital is a dynamic that comes in and sort of pollutes everything. So I figured I would do this stream today, get it all out in the open, talk, maybe answer some questions as well about some of my concerns with BreadTube, and also talk about racism and BreadTube as well. So I guess we'll just dive right into it. But before we do, here are a few sort of ground rules and also expectations that I want to set up. First of all, this is not a cancel anyone stream. I'm not about that life. It's not what I do. It's not what I believe in. It's not what I'm about. My gripes are mostly coming from a place of challenging a specific mode of operation, not necessarily sort of trying to go after or attack people. Even though there are some names that I am going to mention, simply because I feel like I should. And also because I feel like I've let this sort of shit slide for too long, and I don't think it's fair on me. I don't think the onus is on me. It should be on me to be quote unquote civil and fair when other people aren't showing me that sort of um, same sort of respect in return. And but either way, even if I do mention any names in this stream, I'm not saying that you should go after them, because it's not about them, and I'm not trying to make it about them. And I'm still sort of deliberating whether I should say names in my head or not. We'll see. So yeah, it's not about canceling anyone. It's not about sort of going after anyone's platform. I don't even have the social capital to cancel anyone anyway. So here we go. And then secondly, I urge you to be civil in the comments to each other. Like please don't like fight each other. Don't be an asshole. There will be I will like leave it open for people to ask me questions at the end. I might not be able to like look at the chat right as things are going on and things are going through, but I will leave it open to questions like at the end, after I've sort of finished saying what I've saying. So I guess we'll just sort of dive right into it. In a lot of other communities on YouTube and in the world right now as well, there's been the whole sort of conversation around Black Lives Matter, and like, the sort of things that you just sort of suffer for the mere fact that you're a Black person in a quote unquote white world. And, there's been a lot of conversation going on about, you know, uh, people who have suffered wrongdoings. Sorry, people who have suffered wrongdoings in their workplaces, or people who have encountered negativity in the communities that they are in because they're Black. And I've specifically decided that I was going to stay away from this conversation, because a lot of what I was seeing sort of it was like held within this kind of neoliberal mode, where it wasn't really about social justice. It was more about certain creators trying to use identity to gain leverage over their white peers. It wasn't about social justice in terms of what will benefit Black people as a whole. It was more like, I me getting better treatment, or me having more clout, or more people being directed towards me equals a win for every Black person, because it's quote unquote representation. And those are the kinds of politics that I tend to be very sort of suspicious of and incredibly critical of, which is the reason why I steer clear of the conversation. I also outwardly against neoliberal identity politics. That doesn't mean that I don't think that there's a political concern for identity. Those are two different things. Because whenever I do talk about identity, which is very rarely, people will throw it in my face and they'll be like, "Oh, but Angie, you're against identity politics." And it's like, well, I never said that. I said I was against neoliberal identity politics, which is a very specific thing. But I do believe that there is a political concern for identity. And I believe that any leftist, even the staunchest Marxists, believe that there is a political concern for identity. It's just sort of a sort of lie that the liberal left tells, in order to kind of demonize people who are more radical. The idea that we're class reductionists or that we don't care about identity when we criticize neoliberal identity politics and how it operates. And that's one of the things that I've sort of noticed is a lot of the things that are used within this sort of identity politics mode aren't necessarily used for the aims of social justice. It's used in this kind of cynical careerist way to gain leverage within the current political system. And it seems like that's what it's all about all the time, which is the reason why I just don't talk about it, because I don't want to be a part of that. And I never want to be perceived as trying to gain leverage over my white peers in that regard, or trying to sort of score cheap points in that regard, or the idea of like playing the race card or whatever. But it's gotten to the point now where, because I tend to sort of pull back from these sorts of conversations, people feel like they can just say and do anything to me. They feel like they can just say and do like the worst things, and get away with it scot-free. And so much has happened now that I feel like I do have to talk about it. And I don't think that talking about it betrays any of my principles whatsoever, even though there are going to be people who say, well, Angie, you're against identity politics. Well, again, I will say it. I am against neoliberal identity politics. I still believe that there is a political concern for identity. And like I said before, because I don't engage and I'm not super visible and I mostly stick to making video essays and doing the podcast with my friends, people feel like they can create a narrative for me. And a lot of people just sort of jump on that hype train and they believe it. They believe whatever the fuck they hear, whatever stupid thought leader on Twitter says, Angie believes. And then it's obviously harder for me to defend myself because I don't have as much social capital, or as many people who are willing to kind of come out and defend me, because I don't really cultivate that parasocial relationship with the people who view my content. So I don't have quote unquote stands, and I don't want stands. Like I'm perfectly capable of defending myself, and I think that this stream is something that I should have done a really long time ago. But I didn't because I was afraid. I didn't because, when you're in a progressive space, people expect you to sort of keep these things quiet because they basically think that by talking about the things that go on behind closed doors in progressive spaces, you're somehow lending leverage to the right wing or whatever. And I don't care about that. A conversation about racism anywhere is something that is good, in my opinion. And I don't think I'm handing anyone leverage. I'm talking about my experience. And if that agitates some people's demons, then that's okay. I don't really care. So I guess I'll sort of start with BreadTube. And this isn't anything to anybody who enjoys BreadTube. Like, one could argue that, and again, part of the reason why I've been afraid to talk about this subject is because I know that BreadTube is beloved by a lot of different people. And also a lot of people who are in my audience absolutely adore BreadTube, and it's created a lot of meaning for them in that regard, and blah blah blah. So I guess I will preface this by saying that, like, I have nothing against anybody who enjoys BreadTube. I have nothing against anybody who feels very invested in it. And I also admit that there are certain good things that BreadTube as a genre of content and as a demographic have done. However, there are some incredibly toxic things that are lingering beneath the surface of this mode. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, and sort of highlight some of the experiences that I've had. And yeah, I guess I'll just sort of dive right into it. First of all, I started making videos, I think around 2 years ago. And I had a kind of honeymoon period with the genre. I was seeing sort of these creators making videos that were quite creative, but were about sort of leftist politics and stuff. And I figured I would sort of try my hand at it. I didn't think that I would be successful at it, and I was pretty quickly too. And I felt this sort of rush of dopamine, and like I said, it was like a honeymoon period where I was like, oh my god, these people are so nice, these people are so welcoming. It was almost like the cult, like love bombing, the cult love bombing kind of situation, where people were just like overly nice and overly supportive and overly kind of nice. And I wasn't suspicious about it when it first started to happen, because I was new, and I was looking for a footing, and I assumed that because people said that they believed in the tenets of social justice, that was actually what they felt. And I was, excited to sort of, dive into this sort of underground culture and learn, and also, offer what I had as well, because obviously you guys know that I have like more of a I have a very sort of spiritual paradigm to what I do, and I wanted to offer my insights. But very quickly, I sort of started to realize that people wanted to use me as a mouthpiece. There had been a lot of talk going on in the community about, how the genre was too white and too male, and that there needed to be more diversity. How can we say that we're the voice of the marginalized online if we don't have enough diversity in our ranks? And they were sort of waiting for somebody like me to come along, so that they could sort of adopt me into the fold, and basically have somebody be the thing that they wanted to represent their views. And like I said before, a lot of other YouTube communities recently, like BookTube and all these other have had creators who are people of color coming out for various reasons, some genuine, some more careerist, to discuss their experience. So I'm just going to go ahead and discuss mine, because this is shit that has been like weighing heavily on my chest for years now. And I feel like I should be able to talk about it. And I feel like not talking about it has really like deformed my personality. It's made me bitter. It's made me angry. I don't even want to describe myself that way, because I don't want to give people leverage, because that's one of the things that people use to describe me in a sort of racialized way. But really and truly, like when you're holding on to so much shit, of course it's going to deform your personality and hinder how you behave. But anyway, back to the story. I started people started to sort of try to adopt me into the fold. And I was excited when I got an invite from two of the biggest, I would say, bread tubers thereabout, to come and do a talk with them at this. It was at Imperial Uni, and this was when I was a very, very new creator. So I was really excited, because these are people who I had been watching for maybe a year or two before I started making videos. And I was like, whoa, like, why would they want me? This is really interesting. Like, I was starstruck, as anybody would be if given that sort of opportunity. And I was invited, and I was excited, and I went and did the event. But I very soon sort of realized that I was literally just a token. The people in question were very cold, and they weren't very friendly to me. And it was clear that it was a transactional thing, that it wasn't coming from a place of like like personable niceness or anything. It was the transactional kind of exchange of social capital. You be the woman of color that we need in order to make ourselves look diverse, so that it's not just a panel of white men. So that's how we benefit. And then you benefit by getting the exposure, quote unquote, and looking like you're part of the fold. And I remember I went to the event, and obviously these were people who I looked up to and I was like excited about. And I felt so tokenized that I cried. I literally, on the way home, I cried on the way home, because I felt dirty. I felt used, and I felt like a prop. I felt like a prop. Like I was just sort of like a Pokemon card. And I feel like that's what a lot of the left uses people of color as, both the liberal left and the sort of broader left in that sense. It's like black people are only useful while their identity can be leveraged to suit certain aims of those who hold power in this mode. And I'm not that type of person. I don't know what it is about me. Like I'm not used to being racialized, quote unquote, especially, and I also don't see myself as a purely racialized subject. Especially because I maybe it's because I'm African, for instance. Like I have strong roots to Nigeria. Like my mom was raised in Nigeria. And like in Nigeria, everybody's black. And when my mom as well, like, because she was raised in that culture, she never grew up with this sort of inferiority complex to white people. She always expected for them to see her as an equal and to be treated like an equal. And she raised me that way. I know that now that I'm older, I kind of understand that, like, obviously she had some rude awakenings when she moved to England and started working here and things like that. You're going to have the rude awakening, but it's sort of similar with me in the sense that when I'm dealing with white people, I expect to be treated as an equal. I don't have an inferiority complex at all to white people. And in fact, for most of my life, I've outperformed a lot of my white peers. So I don't have an inferiority complex. So when I'm dealing with white people, I expect to be dealt with on an equal level. And then when I'm not, it's almost like a shock to me. It's almost like, whoa. And it's not even just with race, it's also with social capital and clout. Like, I don't care how much clout you have. I don't care how much social capital you have. I'm going to deal with you as an equal. And I also expect to be dealt with as an equal, especially if I'm not just on Stan. I'm a content creator like you, so we're peers. And that encounter was such a shock to me because it was clear that they were trying to establish some kind of hierarchy, and I wasn't really treated like a human being. And I was also really badly tokenized. And that was my sort of first introduction into the mode of BreadTube. You are a means to an end. Your identity is what we're interested in, not actually what you're saying. And considering I'm the type of leftist that is against neoliberal identity politics, I'm also against essentialism too, which I'm also going to explore in the video that I'm making. I'm very much against essentialism. I think that essentialism is a really big problem that the left sort of feeds into. It was a very sort of odd experience for me to be sort of essentialized in that way. It was clear that I wasn't really there because they cared about anything that I needed to say. I was just sort of there to fill a quota. And yeah, that rubbed me the wrong way. And like I said, that was my introduction to BreadTube and to some of the figures within it. And I was horrified by it, and it really hurt me a lot. So from then on, I just sort of started to pull back a little bit, focus more on Angie Speaks as a platform. And I made friends with people like Peter Coffin and others, and kind of surrounded myself with normal people who treated me like an equal. And I guess that's the reason why I gravitated towards Peter as much as I did, because Peter is somebody who has always just treated me like a person and never sort of saw my identity as a means to an end. Whereas with a lot of other creators that I interacted with, they were sort of like, oh, a black woman, here's how we can use you. And it's really very pernicious. And then there's not just that. So as I started to sort of grow as a creator, I started to kind of gain more confidence in my own sort of political outlook. And I sort of started to gain more confidence in terms of trying to challenge the neoliberal mode in that regard within the left, because I see it as one of the biggest stumbling blocks to our progress, and neoliberal identity politics included. I think it's dangerous because it's cynical, and my experience kind of is proof of how cynical it really is, and what it's really about. Leverage. It has nothing to do with social justice. It's about using identity as leverage over people. So a lot of these people don't actually give a shit about social justice. And I sort of I've had lots of visceral experiences with that made that incredibly clear. But as I sort of started to move on in the mode, oh, am I frozen? Shit. Oh, hello. Can you guys still hear me? Am I frozen? Oh my gosh. Hang on a second. Hello. Can you guys still hear me? Hello. Can you guys still hear me? Am I still frozen? Just give me a second. Um shit. I need to call tech support if you can hear me, which is Jake. Hang on. I'm just calling Jake. He's gonna help fix. He'll fix the problem. You can still hear me, but can you see me? Can you guys see me? Hang on. I'm just calling. The screen is frozen. Sorry, guys. Sorry about this. I have no idea what to do. Why the fucking screen would be frozen.
The screen's
Oh
frozen.
shit. Hang on. What did I just do? Oh my gosh. Fucking StreamYard is terrible. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna refresh StreamYard, guys. So just give me a second. I hope not. I hope it won't. Frozen. Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it's okay. It's back. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to fucking do that. I'm not sure what happened. Can you guys see and hear me now? Is everything okay? Everything okay? Just let me know. Okay, great. All right, awesome. I'll continue. Sorry about that. StreamYard is terrible. I need to find another like streaming thing to use. I might start using Twitch actually, because like, oh fuck YouTube. But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, it's like as the more I sort of got confidence about my the things I was seeing and like being able to critique them, the further and further I sort of started to drift away from the neoliberal mode in that regard. Like I started off fairly unquestioning about these thank you, Jake. Everyone's saying thank you. Yeah, so I started off fairly unquestioning about these conventions within the community. But then the more ugliness I saw, the more it sort of started to sort of shift my political position away from the neoliberal mode. And the more confident I got in sort of expressing my positions, the more heinous some of the attacks started to get. And especially because I focus a lot of my criticism on the left. And it's not because I'm right wing or because I hate the left. It's because I want the left to do better. And there's also an entire chud dunking industrial complex, an entire genre of videos that have been created where people endlessly dunk on the right wing. And I didn't want to be one of those other people. There's enough people who do that. There aren't enough people from the left who are making critiques of the neoliberal mode. Most of the critiques of neoliberalism that you'll find tend to come from the right wing, but cynically. And I think that that's very politically dangerous for the left, which is the reason why I do what I do, which is the reason why I make the critiques that I make. And so I started sort of doing that very vocally in my videos, but more so on Low Society and on Twitter. Because in YouTube, I'm a content creator first before I'm a left content creator. I like to do things that are more in line with my real interests, like psychology, spirituality, and certain aspects of politics. But when it comes for the sort of unpicking of the mode, when it comes to these sort of internal conversations, I tend to use Twitter and also the podcast Low Society to discuss these things. Um, however, however, the more I started to do that on Twitter, the harder these people came for me, especially because their identities and their brands are so heavily sort of invested in the sort of BreadTube mode that any sort of criticism that came towards it was met back with resistance, but not only resistance, just racism, like and ugliness, like racism and ugliness. And there have been a handful of incidents that have happened in the last couple of months and also last year as well, that I just took on the chin. I took these incidents on the chin because I didn't want to cause a stir. I also didn't want to like, I didn't want to seem as if I was like bringing up identity because I felt like self-conscious about it or whatever. But I don't want to take it anymore. Like I said, it's deforming my personality, and constantly taking this stuff on the chin has made life really difficult for me, not only just in the work that I'm doing, but just generally in terms of how I feel at ease in the space that I work in. Um, so the first incident was last year. I remember it was when Destiny was on a non-compete, and non-compete and Luna at the time were people who was friends with, and um, they were talking about how he had said all this like really awful stuff about Luna being he said something about American Johnson being a sex tourist, and said a lot of really sort of racialized stuff about Luna. And I came forward to sort of defend them on Twitter and was like, that's not okay. Like if someone said that about me, like I would struggle to curtail myself. And then Destiny called me subhuman. He just came right out and called me subhuman. And it was a shock to me because I wasn't expecting that kind of like outward kind of a thing, that kind of outward form of racism. It was a massive shock to me that somebody would say something like that, or that they could say so with impunity, especially because I've seen people say things that are a lot less worse and have gotten completely cancelled. And anytime I say anything that's even the slightest bit off color, people come for my neck. But it was totally fine for him to call me subhuman. But then I was like, you know what, whatever, I'll let it slide. Like, doesn't matter. Like, fuck that guy. That guy's an asshole. But then, not too long ago, you have someone like Vosh who came out and called me a class reductionist just randomly on a whole bunch of like, on a list with a whole bunch of people. He called me a class reductionist. And then when I was like, piss off, you're a freak, I don't know you, like, you don't know me, why the fuck are you putting me on a list full of people in front of your fucking audience? He then decided to stand up in front of his audience of hundreds of thousands. All the people I'm naming have a lot more social capital than me. And he said that I was the dumbest, most ill-informed, least competent leftist that there is. And like, I've never had a fight with this person before. I had never gone back and forth with this person before. And I was like, wait a second, where is this coming from? And also, why am I the dumbest? And like I said, I try really hard with research. I put a lot of love and work into what I do. I'm also really self-aware and like insecure about affect as well. Like, especially because I know that the audience that's watching me is probably majority white. So I do try my best to put myself forward um in a way that's like dignified or whatever. But then I felt like all of that was undone because this person was able to say something about me, and in one fell swoop that was what people were perceiving as the truth. So it was like, it doesn't matter how hard I try, one person one person can say something like that about me, and then people are repeating it. It's everywhere. I'm the dumbest one of everyone. And I was like, I'm beginning to wonder why. And then obviously I reacted, because any human being would react if somebody who has more power to control their narrative is trying to say negative things about them. And then you see a bunch of people doing the angry Black woman stereotype. Oh my God, Angie, she's angry. She's come again with her rubbish. She's always causing problems. She's aggressive. She's this, she's that. And like, it really bothers me. It really does bother me, because it's like a way of shutting me up, especially because what I'm saying it's contrary to their mode. It's sort of a way of kind of angry Black womaning me out of the conversation. And I really, really fucking hate that. And then, there was another incident a couple of days ago, which was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, with Big Joel. And Big Joel, he tweeted something about people who criticize the left, and, how they don't sort of give the same energy to the right. And I tweeted back and I was like, well, people who criticize the left don't criticize the left because they hate the left. We do it because we care. my tweet wasn't at all aggressive. It was more just adding to the conversation as well, and also trying to sort of expand on it in the way that in terms of expressing my opinion in the way that I see things. And the conversation then culminated in him bringing forth all these accusations about how I believe that the working class is right wing, things that I've never said, things that I've never said anywhere, things that I don't believe, things that I have no bearing on anything that I've ever put out before. But again, this is somebody who has more social capital than me, so they have more power to shape the narrative that's around me. And obviously I reacted to that because I'm like, no, you're not going to have people believe that that's what I believe. You're not just going to pull something out of your ass and get away with it. So obviously I reacted, and then he started doing the whole like, oh, Angie is aggressive thing. And it's like a thing that I've been going through my whole life, where white people will throw stones and then hide their hands. They'll throw stones and then hide their hands, and then they'll say that you're aggressive for getting angry, when it's a natural human reaction to get angry when somebody says something about you that's false. And I see it ramping up and getting more and more intense. Like, it's ramping up and it's getting more and more intense the more and more people like me and Peter and others start to sort of unpick and criticize this mode. It starts with this sort of bad faith accusation, and then when you react, they then sort of use your reaction as more leverage to push you out of the conversation. And it's even doubly worse because of who I am. Because I'm Black and because I'm a woman, certain tropes can be used to obfuscate. And before, I was willing to give the benefit of the doubt, but the more and more these sort of incidents accumulate, the more and more I'm like, okay, yeah, there's something going on here. And not only that, I also, after Big Joel and I were done talking, I kind of told him to piss off because I couldn't be bothered to go back and forth with him anymore. And I was like, I'm at the hair salon. I don't want to talk to you. He was then like, oh, have fun at the hair doctor. And there's like a massive racial undertone to implying that my hair needs a doctor. And I was shocked by it. Like, if I said anything about him being weak, or if I called him a soy boy, or if I said any of that stuff, people would say that I was transphobic, and they would try to ruin my entire life. Like, if I sort of said anything like that about any of these people, anything that sort of tacitly implied that they were not masculine enough or that they were pussies, people would say that I was doing trans misogyny, and my life would be over. But it's totally fine. It's okay for people to say these sort of thinly veiled racial things about me with impunity. And it seems like so long as it's hidden and concealed behind this sort of soft boy persona, this sort of, I'm like a good boy, I'm a nice boy, I'm a good BreadTube boy, like I do all the good things, I'm a sweet person, it's fine for you to get away with whatever the fuck you want with impunity when it comes to dealing with people who are minorities, who have different political orientations or views than you do. And it's something that happens to me all the time. Like, people feel like they can say and do anything to me simply because I disagree with neoliberal identity politics. And I feel like it's this sort of weird threat. It's this tacit threat of like, neoliberal identity politics is what we have. It's like a gilded cage. And if you obey that mode, we kind of create a door and a route to power for you. We create a door where you can use your identity as leverage to gain power over people. However, if you reject that and you say, no, I don't want to be essentialized, I want the power to be able to determine what I feel social justice is for me, then you are a threat and you are isolated and bullied. And that's precisely what's been going on. It's sort of this thing where I'm being isolated and bullied by some of the people who have the most power in this mode. And I am one of the only vocal Black women who makes leftist content. And I'm not even just like, identity centered shit. Like, I'm talking about like material analysis the majority of the time. And there are not that many of us who are doing this. And I feel like if I feel rudderless. I have nowhere to turn. I feel like if I talk about my experiences with race, I'm sort of pandering to the liberal left. But if I don't, I'm keeping it in order to sort of stay true to certain principles or whatever. And I just can't do it anymore. It feels like being caught between a rock and a hard place. Like I need to have an outlet to be able to sort of say, you know, say my experiences, but also because social capital is involved and emotions are involved, because a lot of people get really emotionally invested in the content creators that they watch. They get really emotionally invested in the content creators that they are interacting with, especially the ones who work really hard to sort of cultivate this parasocial relationship. Any form of criticism then gets perceived as a personal attack to them or this or that. And I just can't be bothered to enter that fray, which is why most of the time I'm quiet about it. But these are several incidents now where racialized language has been used, where I've been singled out and pinpointed in ways that are completely unnecessary, in ways that other people who do the exact same thing as me are not. Like I was talking to Ashley Coffin about it the other day, and Ashley was like, I say even worse things than you do on Twitter. I am somebody who agrees with you on basically most of the things that you say. She's my podcast mate, for fuck's sake, and we're friends. She does way more crazy shit and says way more crazy shit. She shit posts and all kinds of stuff, but people don't seem to go after her in the same way that they go after me. And it's not just her. There are a lot of people out there who share my opinions on certain subjects, on the subject of class reductionism, on the subject of on the subject of social justice and identity politics, who don't get the amount of shit that I do. And it feels incredibly isolating because it feels like there's nowhere to turn in that regard, especially because I don't want to rely on the liberal left kind of like yas queen shit for leverage. And that's not the point of the stream. The point of the stream is, in my opinion, liberal social justice is a lie. And I feel like that's sort of the linchpin of BreadTube. It's all about this sort of neoliberal mode of social justice. And it's not about achieving social justice. It has nothing to do with the material or social concerns of minorities. It has everything to do with trying to give people a way to use identity as leverage within the already existing system. And that is why I'm disillusioned with the mode. And that is why a lot of the sort of racism that happens within the mode kind of is allowed to perpetuate itself. It's allowed to slip under the radar without anyone really saying anything about it or anyone really challenging it. So long as it's all ooh and smiles and likes and parasocial hugs over the internet, it's perfectly fine for people to behave like absolute monsters behind the scenes. And I've not had a great time in the quote unquote left content creator scene. I don't consider myself to be BreadTube, never have. But if we're going to talk about BreadTube as a genre and as a sort of cluster that people put themselves in, it's been one of the worst experiences of my life, not only racially, but also just in terms of the mode of cancel culture, the way that creators are suspicious of each other. And, there's this sort of endless strivings for leverage and social capital, and how things that are important like friendship and solidarity and the aims and goals of social justice are sort of pushed to the side in favor of creating cults of personality around certain figures. I just can't be bothered with it anymore, and I want out. Like I can't be, and I'm tired too. I've been holding so much of the different things that have happened to me back, and it's not even just from the creators that I mentioned, these sort of incidents that have happened. There have been more incidents, but these are just the most recent ones, but also from the community that kind of gather around these creators in general. I remember, if you guys remember, way back when I was a baby content creator, there was the whole sort of Lorelei Gate situation that happened, where that person was my Patreon. And because they were my Patreon, I was blamed for all of their sins. And I was told to cancel or be canceled. And I got hacked and doxxed, and, money was stolen. Like, all the crazy shit that happened during that whole period was also another sort of baptism by fire. But during that time, there were people making statements like, oh, she's a rape apologist. we should hang that N-word. Like, although I got death threats, people were saying, spewing like really crazy racial abuse at me. And every time I've been cancelled, quote unquote, since, there's always racial abuse. There's always racial abuse every single time I've been cancelled. And I know that some of you will be like, oh, it's Nazis that are pretending to be leftists. No, it's leftists. It's leftists. I can tell you for a fact that it's leftists. And it's because the left has sort of refused to look at its shadow. We think that because people say that they're in favor of social justice and this and that, that actually means that they are, and you have people who are able to morally posture in front of people on these platforms like Twitter, YouTube, blah, blah, blah. People are sort of able to morally posture and sort of use their identity as leverage, or use the identities of other people as leverage. But then behind the scenes, they behave monstrously. And I wasn't expecting to get that sort of thing from someone like Big Joel. Like, that's the whole BreadTube affect. He looks like a teddy bear. He's all ooh and sweet, and he goes around, being sweet and blah blah blah. And he makes his videos about Shrek or whatever. And I wasn't expecting to feel that kind of misogynoir in our interaction, considering the fact that he has that ooh veneer, and also he goes around morally scolding people about things that have to do with social justice. But it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fucking fine to be a dickhead and to then fall back on you're just an aggressive Black woman and you need to go see the hair doctor when it benefits you. And I don't understand how that can be okay. I don't understand how it can be okay. The same thing with someone like Vosh saying that, someone who I had literally, it's not as if me and him had a vendetta against each other. He's not somebody who I talk to or even cared about, not somebody whose content that I engage with or anything. We had never as much as said words to each other. And then all of a sudden, I'm the dumbest leftist. I'm the most ill-informed. He got up in front of his audience of hundreds of thousands and said something like that. And then I need to live with the consequences of what he said. Because those people then go around spreading that. People then go around spreading. And then my credibility and that I've spent years building up is then automatically diminished because of a couple of words that this person said. And it's frustrating, and it makes me want to fucking give up. It's like, what's the fucking point? What's the point? Like, what have I said that, I don't know, someone like, a Ben Burgess hasn't said? What have I said that, like, a Chapo Trap House hasn't said? What have I said that Peter Coffin hasn't said? What have I said that an Ashley Coffin hasn't said? What have I said that even someone like Michael Brooks, who I really looked up to, hasn't said? It's not even just with me. Adolph Reed is another Black Marxist who has seen insane amounts of fucking racism from the DSA. Just insane racism from the DSA. And I really respected Michael Brooks because he had Adolph Reed on his show several times, and gave him a chance and a platform to advocate for himself, because some of the things that people were saying about Adolph Reed was completely and utterly ridiculous. And for those of you who don't know who Adolph Reed is a Black Marxist academic. He wrote Class Notes. He also wrote The Myth of Class Reductionism as well. And he's somebody who sort of comes from my position. He's sort of pro-solidarity, anti-essentialism sort of position when it comes to social and economic justice. That's the position that I have. And he has been treated so fucking poorly by the left. So poorly. And it's not even, it seems as if anytime there are Black people on the left who don't sort of toe the neoliberal line of, you're here to be used for your identity, for leverage, when we actually have a brain of our own, when we actually are able to think for ourselves, when we're actually sort of doing things based upon what we feel is the most expedient for our survival and our struggle and our shared struggle with the rest of the working class, we get met with just ugliness, just utter ugliness, just the worst kind of fucking ugliness, and the worst kind of like bad faith too. And it always has a racial undertone to it. It's not just like we disagree with you. It's not just like we're going to be an ass to you because we disagree with you, because that I could handle. It's always peppered with this sort of racial undertone, and I find it really, really, really disturbing. I find it really, really disturbing. And it's not necessarily the racism that's disturbing. Like I said, I've been black my whole life. I've been black my whole fucking life. So I'm used to dealing with bullshit from the dominant culture. It's just part and parcel of being a black person. What really disturbs me is the fact that it's the hypocrisy. That's what it is. The hypocrisy is what disturbs me. The fact that these people would be the loudest to yell about social justice, be the loudest to yell about how minorities this, minorities that, but only so far as it can be used for leverage, only so far as it suits them. When it actually comes to like dealing with minorities IRL, they don't know what the fuck to do. They don't know how to sort of take you as a person and not as this sort of racialized subject that they can either sort of throw racialized shade at when you step out of line, or someone who they can tokenize to use for their own aims. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to be a Pokemon card. I don't want to be tokenized. And I'm also not going to allow people to throw racialized shade at me simply because they disagree with me and get away with it with impunity. It's not fair. And I've been taking this shit on the chin for so fucking long, and I'm exhausted. I'm really, really exhausted. And yeah, that's kind of been my experience with racism in the BreadTube mode. It started from very early on with the sort of tokenism, and then how I was sort of quickly pushed out as soon as certain figures realized that I wasn't really going to play ball with that aspect, and that I had a mind of my own. And I remember way, way, way back, I made that video, Social Justice Can Be a Clout Game. And that was when the attacks started to sort of flood in the hardest. That was when things started to get worse. Because that was a video where I was sort of really viscerally challenging the neoliberal mode in this way that hadn't really been done before by anyone on the left. And there were certain people, I'm not going to name figures, I'm not going to name the figure specifically, but there was a certain person that sort of had this sort of how dare you response, like how dare you make this video, and anything that happens to you for making this video, you deserve it. That was literally what they said to me. They literally said to me, how dare you make this video, and anything that happens to you from making this video, you deserve it. You're not meant to challenge these things. They literally said to me, you're a black woman, you have bigger fish to fry. And that's the thing, is I don't know why I'm protecting these people by not saying names. I guess maybe because I'm not messy in that regard, and I prefer not to do that. Because I know that if these people had a leverage or an inch over me, if I fucked up in any way, they would be the first ones to dance on my grave. They would be the first ones to fucking dance on my grave. So why am I protecting these people? Fuck it, I'm just gonna say the name. When I made that Social Justice Can Be a Clout Game video, and like during the whole Lorelei Gate situation, what?
Sorry, apparently it's been on the
Oh, it's been on the screen for ages. Sorry, I don't know why it's been on the screen.
Just thought I'd let you know.
Yeah, I don't know how to get rid of. Oh, there we go. Sorry, there we go. I got rid of the comment. Yeah, like it happened during the whole the whole Lorelei Gate situation or whatever. I think it was directly after or just before that I made the Social Justice Can Be a Clout Game video. And I remember like I went to H Bomber Guy while I was being sort of dogpiled and harassed. I went to H Bomber Guy to seek solace, basically, especially because they were a creator who I had looked up to, and I thought, they've probably been through something similar. They can give me some advice on what to do. And it was during the worst of the pylon, after I had been hacked, and I was freaking out, and I'm a normie. Like I'm not a hyper online person. I'm a normie. So I had never experienced anything like that in my life before. And I was looking for some solace. And they basically told me that the whole thing was my fault, and that I deserved what I was getting. And they also said that I shouldn't have made the Social Justice Can Be a Clout Game video, because, and they basically said that anything that happens to me, I deserve it because of that. And I was shocked. And I knew that the reason that they said that to me is because they thought I was going to be cancelled and that they could just kind of shoo me off. But then after I wasn't cancelled and I was still around and people were actually sympathetic towards me, they basically came back to apologize. And I know that their apology wasn't rooted in anything sincere. It was an apology of like, please don't say anything about the horrible things that I said to you because it will affect my brand and image. And these are all just like accumulations of things that I've been sitting on for so long, where on the surface of BreadTube, it claims to represent one thing. It claims to represent all of this like good stuff about social justice and this and that and blah blah blah. But then on the other hand, I'm experiencing the exact opposite. I'm experiencing the exact opposite. And this is just my experience as a minority in this quote unquote space. You know, take it or leave it. But I felt like I had the right to express myself and talk about my experience in this community and not just sit in darkness and silence about it and have it deform my personality, because I feel like that's exactly what it's done. I feel like that's exactly what it's done. It's made me angry and it's made me bitter. And then people, because obviously when bad things happen to you or you have really bad experiences, it inevitably makes you angry and bitter. But then because I'm a Black woman, people are like, see, she's angry and bitter. She's angry and bitter. See, we told you. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. I come chill. Someone does something to make me angry. I get angry. And then they're like, see, she's angry. We told you. You know, she's aggressive. She's this, she's that. People start to sort of form this narrative around you. And the other thing that I was sort of concerned about as well is the fact that a lot of these people then decided they were going to try and make me the face of class reductionism. I'm a minority. I have a marginalized identity. And at the end of the day, I understand that there's a political concern for identity because I've lived it. So because I speak out against the neoliberal mode and because I call those different things out when I see them in different forms, that then means that I'm some kind of Strasserist class reductionist. It doesn't make any sense. And why they would try to make me the face of it and like the scapegoat for this sort of new demon that the left's collective imagination has sort of dreamed up is really frustrating for me. And I refuse to be the fucking pantomime villain, which is the reason why I've come on today to do this stream, is because that's precisely what's going on, is people are sort of trying to make me a fucking pantomime villain. And I'm not a pantomime villain. I'm just like a regular person. And I might have different opinions from a lot of people who make content out there, but that doesn't mean I bear them any ill will. But it seems as if there's a lot of ill will that kind of gets directed towards me. And there have been times where I've acted out in frustration because of that. But a lot of the time, it's just random attacks. Like the whole Vosh thing was just like a fucking random attack. And then even though he mentioned Peter and Ashley, who got it the worst? Who got it the worst? Who was the one that got called the stupidest and the dumbest and this and that? Like, I'm tired of being a lightning rod for bullshit. I'm tired of it. And like, I'm not going to stop doing what I do either. Like, you can disagree with me. That's one thing. It's fine to disagree with me. But that doesn't mean I have to agree with your disagreement. And it also doesn't mean I have to care. And it also doesn't mean I have to stop. Like, you know, it gets to the point when you're a public figure and a creator where you have to choose between yourself and the audience and the community as a whole. And I'm always going to choose me. Like, I come first. My mental well-being comes before the expectations that anybody wants to put on me out there, and who I am and my voice and my authenticity. So yeah, I choose me no matter what. I don't care what anyone else has to say about it. I don't care if I lose traction or credibility or social capital because of it. I'm always going to express my opinions. But I'm also not going to let the racialized shit slide anymore, you know? And it's not just me. Obviously, there are white people and stuff on the broader left. The broader left in general gets attacked. Like Marxists and people who are not part of the liberal left gets attacked in general. I mean, anyone who's been vocal in that regard has been met with a lot of push back. I mean, Mark Fisher, like so many different people I could name who have had been like really bullied and surveilled because they've sort of talked about this liberal left kind of affect on the left, and anybody who talks about it gets pushback. But if you're a Black person and you do it, you get double the pushback. Like I said, if you look at some of the stuff that's been going on with Adolf Reed, it's absolutely like horrifying. It's ridiculous. It's really, really ridiculous. It's like we have this sort of thing. We have this thing that we have this you need to basically power our positions. And if you don't power our positions, then we're gonna make your life a living hell. Because we are the ones who know what social justice really means. And we're the ones who know how to achieve it best. So stay in your place, N-word. That's basically what I hear whenever I see the sort of attacks that get levied towards Black Marxists in this community. And like, I'm done with it. I'm really, really done with it. I'm done with it. And, you know, I'm glad that I managed to come out today and like say something about it, because it's really been weighing heavily on me, the fact that I constantly have to let it slide. Or I just sort of gaslight myself and I'm like, no, it's not racial. Maybe they didn't mean it in a racialized way. But after like 5, 6, 7, 8 different incidents that are all kind of, you know, linked to the same kind of through line, you're gonna have to fucking call a spade at the end of the day. You're gonna have to call a spade a spade. And I'm not quick to say somebody is being racist. Like, I've never done that in the course of my career. I'm not a trigger happy person when it comes to that kind of thing. And I've kept a lot concealed for a really long time. But I don't feel like I should have to do that. And I don't understand why the expectation is on me to do so, because if it was anyone else from any other kind of marginalized community, they wouldn't be expected to do the same. But when it comes to Black women, we're supposed to just sort of take it on the chin and move on. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. But the larger sort of context of this is liberal social justice is bullshit. And I'm going to continue saying it, and I'm going to scream it from the rooftops. Liberal social justice is bullshit. The political concern for identity married to general solidarity of working class people is what we should be aiming for. The liberal mode of social justice has absolutely nothing to do with the material concerns or the political concerns of marginalized people. It's all about creating a vector to use identity in order to gain leverage within the existing system. And I'll keep fucking repeating it. Look at Kamala Harris. That's a prominent example. Look at Kamala Harris. It has nothing to do with social justice. It's all about optics. It's all about optics and using identity as a vector to gain leverage and power within the existing system. It's not radical at all, because it does absolutely nothing to challenge the system. It just reinforces it. And if you're a Black person who says this, then people want to kill you. People want to ruin your life. People want to call you a class reductionist. People want to drag your name through the mud. People want to call you dumb. People want to fucking, you know, say the most horrible things to you. People want to say that you're right wing. People have called me a fascist, a Strasserist, all kinds of nonsense, simply because I have a different perspective about how social justice should work and how the current mode of social justice isn't really that radical. It's not radical at all. Like it's frustrating for me. It's really, really frustrating for me. And I'm tired of getting the arse end of it. Like, I don't deserve it. I don't deserve to get the arse end of it, because I'm not the only person who makes these kinds of critiques. I'm not. And I'm not even the only person who makes these critiques in this kind of harsh way. Loads of people make it in a harsh way. And you know why I make it in a harsh way? Because I'm fucking tired. The world is in fucking peril. And this stuff is being used to obfuscate the real struggles. It's being used to distract us from the things that actually fucking matter. And it's also being used to atomize us and alienate us from each other as well. And it's also breaking down bridges that could be built towards people who don't already understand. It's a huge fucking obstacle. It's a massive obstacle. And that's why I'm harsh about it, because it's like, enough is enough. This isn't working. And if you want to continue in that mode of operation, then whatever, do you, but don't get in my way. Leave me alone and let me try something different. Let me try something different. I'm not coming for you. I don't even care about any of the people who I talked about. I tuned out of BreadTube like 2 years ago. I don't watch anyone's fucking videos. There are a few, I watch leftist content. There's a lot of leftist content, but a lot of like the main BreadTube sort of big names, I don't fucking watch them. I don't follow them on Twitter. I'm not checking for them. I don't care. So I'm not like looking for things to fucking, I don't care. I honestly don't care. So just leave me to do my thing and let you do your thing. And this isn't anything to demonize anyone who like enjoys watching BreadTube. It's entertaining. There are a lot of people, there are a lot of good insights in there. There's nothing wrong if you want to watch BreadTube or whatever. That doesn't mean that you're any less radical or blah blah blah. This isn't like a consumer brand war thing. Do you? I personally am trying to do something else. I'm trying to do something else. And I want to be left to do that. I don't want to have to deal with miles and miles of obfuscation, and not just obfuscation, cruelty. Like some of the things that people say to me and about me are just like, whoa, really? Like people, like I said, like there are a lot of people around me who say the exact same things and who are on similar levels of social capital, but don't get the worst, don't get the same kind of treatment. Don't get the same kind of treatment. And I'm a human being at the end of the day. That shit hurts. It's not nice, especially when there are people who you have nothing against. Like I had nothing against any of the people who I mentioned. Not until the incidents happened anyway. And I guess maybe that's the reason why I got angry about H Bomber guy's tweet about who people should be friends with, because I was kind of like, you're the last person that should be moralizing about anything. You're the last person that should be moralizing about anything. I got annoyed because I've had to keep all of this fucking shit inside so long. I've had to keep it inside for so long, and I have to sort of see people play acting on Twitter and in public. Like I like, especially when the whole Black Lives Matter shit was going on, I like was so angry because I was seeing so many of these different people, saying Black Lives Matter, this, that. And I'm like, really? Are you fucking serious? You? Really? Like it's cynical. I feel like it's cynical, and I feel like I have the right to say that. I've been in this community for long enough and had enough interactions, and I'm also a person of color and somebody who's not fucking quick to play the race card. But so much of the posturing around not just race, but a lot of these issues of identity, it's cynical. It's cynical, and I just don't want to hear it. And it hurts. Sorry if I'm not like looking at the chat right now because I'm like really deep into what I'm talking about, but that I'll get to the chat. I'll get to the chat when I'm in a minute after I'm done talking. It's really I don't know. It's just it's hard. It's been difficult. It's been really difficult run, especially over the last couple of months, especially leading up to the election as well. Obviously, the broader left position on Biden differs from the liberal left position on Biden, and I feel like the election has been ramping up a lot of this heat. Those of us who were vocally supported Bernie Sanders, those of us who were obviously vocally disappointed and vocally disgusted by the obfuscation that the Democratic Party acted in, are now sort of under threat by we're under siege again by the liberal left. The liberal left is like, oh, okay, left, you've had your fun now. It's time for us to push you out of the way. And they're not just doing it through they're not just doing it through meanness, and just they're doing it through legitimate obfuscation and smearing, not just on my tiny scale or whatever. Like my shit doesn't matter, but even on a political scale, like the stuff that happened with Rebecca Long Bailey and Keir Starmer, the way that Keir Starmer is purging, the Labour Party of all the elements of Corbyn's government. It's like an insurgence from the liberal left. And I feel like it's ramping up the closer we get to the election. And there's just been a lot of ugliness, kind of this get in line or we're going to fucking come after you. And as soon as they sort of identify you as an enemy, and they tarnish you, and by saying you're a class reductionist, or whatever, any one of the whatever thing labels they use to say bad person. Anything they do or say to you is fair game, even if it's racialized. Anything that they do or say to you is fair game, even if it's racialized. And I guess, yeah, the reason that I'm doing this stream is to sort of illustrate that, like, I'm disillusioned with this mode. I'm disillusioned with this sort of bullshit. I'm not gonna stand for it anymore. And there is an alternative. The alternative is solidarity. I'm not coming here. The reason why I'm really reluctant to talk about race a lot of the time is because I don't want people to view me as a purely racialized subject, or essentialize me. Like, yeah, I'm a black woman. No shit. I'm a black woman. Of course, I'm a fucking black woman. It's the most obvious thing in the world. However, I'm also a lot of other things too. I also have a lot of other things that are more interesting about me other than the accident of birth that I came out black. It's an accident of birth that you came out white or whatever it is. It's not something that you chose. It's just something that you are. And unfortunately, we live in a world where people who are certain things are discriminated against, but it doesn't mean that there's anything essential about you or anything essential about the things that people levy towards you. But the way the liberal left essentializes is very similar to the way that right-wing people essentialize, which is the reason why I'm reluctant to talk about race, because I don't want to be essentialized and I don't want people to permanently racialize me. And I want people to see me as a person, and I want to be in solidarity with people. I don't want allies. I want to be in solidarity with people. I want people who view me as an equal and who see me as someone who they can be in solidarity with, you know? And that's the alternative to this pernicious mode of using identity as leverage. There has to be a way that we can speak about racism that doesn't entail it being used as leverage or being used to score kind of social capital points, or in a way that forces the person to be a racialized, essentialized subject. But because of the sort of neurosis that the liberal left discourse has created around race, it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible. And it's frustrating because I feel rudderless. I feel completely on my own. I feel completely on my own. There aren't that many black people who are on the broader left. There are a lot of black people who have the same liberal left ideology. And the liberal left ideology is easier. All it is gilded cage. We've provided a route to power for you because now you can leverage your identity within the system. And a lot of black people see that and they're like, okay, sure, that's an easy option for me. Even though it's not freedom, you're in a gilded cage and you're still at the mercy of the liberal left establishment, which is largely white or male. You're at their mercy. It's not fucking freedom. What I want is actual freedom to be myself and to determine what I believe social justice means for me. And it has a lot to do with the material. It has a lot to do with the material. It's difficult. It's difficult. It's really difficult. And it's been awful. It's been really hard to feel like you don't have an ally or a friend in the world when it comes to this sort of thing. Sorry, I'm going to drink some wine now because I'm sad. Because on one hand, you have like the fucking, the rad lib kind of, black people who are like, well, Angie, it's your fault for hanging around with these white leftists. Why don't you just atomize yourself and come over here and sit with us? It's your fault. All the racism and shit that you experience, it's your fault for being around, white leftists, basically. There's this sort of woke segregation type of thing. So they have no sympathy for me because it's like, well, that's what you get when you sort of open yourself up to white audiences. And then on the other hand, you have the sort of SJW kind of like woke scold white people on the left who are like, you can come sit at our table, but you have to do what we say. And then you have people on the broader left, who are the people who I tend to hang out with, who are like, we see you, Angie, we hear your pain, we know that what's going on is wrong, but we have no way of helping you because the obfuscation around this issue is so deep, and you can't even begin to address it without falling into traps like essentialism, which also puts me in danger. So, I'm just mostly told to grin and bear it. And I don't want to do that anymore because, like I said, it's deforming my personality. It's making me sick. It's making me angry. And I'm not an angry person. I really am. Ask anyone who knows me. I'm not. And I don't want to be perceived that way either because it's like turning me into this one-dimensional angry Black woman caricature. I'm not. I'm very loving and very caring and very supportive to the people who are around me. But I also fiercely fucking defend my own, and I fiercely protect my own. And I'm also fucking very protective over myself too. I don't suffer fools. If anyone tries to bring bullshit my way, you're gonna get the same energy in return. But it's difficult for me to do that without people saying, oh, you're an angry Black woman. Even on the left, the so-called progressive space. And I'm tired of it. I don't want to play into cynical bullshit identity politics. I don't also want to be essentialized, but at the same time, this shit is happening to me and it's horrible. So what am I supposed to do? It's hard. It's really, really hard. I guess this is the portion where I'm gonna open it up to questions, and hear some of what you guys have to say about what I'm saying. There's quite a lot of you here. There's 460 people, so Jesus Christ, I'll try and get to them as best as I can. But if you have any questions or you want to add anything, you can type it. You can type it in the chat box. I'm gonna take a big old sip of this wine because I really fucking need it. Yeah, it's difficult. Someone says thanks for the input, Angie. Yeah, I mean, the input isn't supposed to be this like you need to do better. Like I don't believe in that shit. I don't believe in that whole like it's an individual problem and you need to do better. I'm saying that, we've created this sort of culture within this sort of brand demographic of BreadTube that tends to obfuscate certain more pernicious aspects, and maybe we should examine that. It's not an individual like you need to do better. Even the people I'm talking about who have done shit to me in the past or said shit to me, I wish them no ill will. I'm not somebody who's like you should now go and cancel these people or whatever. I doubt any of you even care. Even when people see it happen in real time, nobody says anything about it. But even then, like I don't care about any of them. They can do whatever the fuck they want. But I'm also not going to take it lying down. Like if it happens, I'm going to say it from now on. And I'm going to be vocal about it because I shouldn't have to put up with this quietly. I shouldn't have to. Any other identity or any other sort of thing that the left lionizes as like, oh, the perfect victim, wouldn't be expected to take it lying down, but I am. David Scott says, I'm sorry I said you and Joel should calm down. Oh, sorry, hang on. There, I keep losing it. It's going too fast. I'm going to try and get to as many of these as possible, but I need to put my glasses on because I cannot see shit. Okay, sorry guys, 1 second. David Scott, thank you for the super chat. You said, I'm sorry I said you and Joel should calm down because you're nowhere in the streets. Didn't pay attention to the dynamic and how you were being targeted. Well, thank you for apologizing. I appreciate it. It's we all make mistakes online, especially because things can get heated on Twitter. But that's why I wanted to come here today to like show my face so people can see that there's like a person behind the things that people say, and also to rescue my own narrative, because from that interaction with Big Joel, you now have a bunch of people saying that I believe in right-wing populism or that I stand for the right wing. And there's nothing I can do to combat it because he's somebody who has more social capital than me. So whatever these people say about me sort of travels you know, and there's nothing I can do to combat that narrative without looking totally unhinged, replying to everything everyone says. And I don't think it's fair for me to be constantly told, take it on the chin, Angie. I've taken enough on the chin for the last like 2-3 years that I've been making content, you know, and I'm done taking shit on the chin. Let's see. um Hang on. Angie, at Angie speaks. Sorry, just at Angie speaks me so that I can actually see that you're talking to me. If you're leaving a comment, make sure you at Angie speaks. Otherwise, I can't see it. Angie speaks. Sorry, what the fuck is this person saying? Here we go. The space of BreadTube. Sorry, the space of BreadTube just recreated the same hierarchies present in the larger society, and is defensive because they believe they are better than that. I totally agree. A lot of this stuff is sort of used to codify hierarchies that already exist. Like, you know, the whole BreadTube so white thing pissed me off as well because, you know, BreadTube, the left in general has this really like schizophrenic relationship with white men where it essentializes them as like the source of all evil in the world. But at the same time, white men are still at the forefront of every single major institution of the left. So it says they're the source of all evil, they're terrible, but at the same time, they're always the ones in power in every single institution of the left. And they're the ones who then codify the sort of social justice norms that we're all supposed to live by. It's not fair, and it is. It's social justice that's sort of being used to justify the status quo of things as they are. And nobody ever criticizes this stuff or calls it out. And even the dumb stuff that they say, nobody ever criticizes them. Because if you do, then there's like an army of stans who will come after you because they have some parasocial investment in the creator. You know? Like the thing that Joel said, I should be able to be like, actually, I disagree. Why can't I criticize the thought leader? Why can't I say that I disagree with something that the thought leader has said? Same with H Bomber Guy. Why can't I say I disagree? I should be able to say I disagree without people then calling my morality into question and all kinds of fucking bullshit. And that's the thing that they always go for to silence you is your morality. They'll try to label you as something immoral. Like they'll say that you're I've been called every name under the sun. I've been called a fucking Strasserist, a fascist, a class reductionist, a turf, everything. They'll slap some label on you, make you seem immoral to others, and anything that happens to you from then on is fair game. It's such a cynical way of operating. And especially because I live in the real world and most of the people who are in my life are people who have no investment in internet politics whatsoever, you know? But when I talk to them about the left, they hate the left. Every single person I know in my life thinks the left are a bunch of lunatics who get off on sort of, you know, using morality and identity as leverage in order to gain power. People aren't stupid and they see this stuff. And a lot of the criticisms they have of the left they're rooted in truth. And instead of people to confront those criticisms, people just deflect. And I feel like that's a reason why a lot of people hate me because I don't shy away from those criticisms. I examine them and I see the truth in them. And I also see routes to improvement in those criticisms too. It really pokes some people's shadows though. Let's see. Make sure you at me if you want me to respond to your question. Let's see. It's just so sad. Feel like you. Yeah. Yeah, that's Casper. And shout out to Casper Sage Hansen, who's been one of my Patreons since like the beginning of Angie Speaks. Thank you for all the support that you've shown through time in memoriam. Like I really, really appreciate it. And I really appreciate that you're sort of just chill and let me get on with my shit. Like that's why I love my patrons so much, because I don't try to cultivate a parasocial relationship with them, but they know that when I make the content, I'll make dope content. So they just sort of leave me to get on with it. Whereas I feel like a lot of other creators in the community set the precedent of like I said, you're going to need to choose between yourself or the audience. And a lot of other creators choose the audience and don't choose themselves. And they set up the expectation that we should we should choose the audience and not ourselves, and it's unhealthy. I'm a fucking person, for fuck's sake. Let's have a look. Sorry, my internet is probably being slow, which is the reason why. Um, that's why you need to be able to ignore some of it too, because there's so much BS out there. I wish I could, and I do ignore the majority of it. Like, I've been ignoring it for the last like 2-3 years since I've been making content, and I've been quiet about it. I've ignored it and I've been quiet about it because number one, I didn't want to name names because I didn't want to be messy, and that's not my mode of operation. But today I thought about it. I was like, why am I protecting these people? Why am I protecting them? Like, I'm like, if I fucked up even like just slightly, these people would be dancing on my grave and asking for my head. And anytime I have fucked up, these people who used to be friends of mine or whatever, they'll come and stab me in the ribs. So why the fuck am I protecting them? Like, no, I'm not going to be quiet. Um, uh, um, Someone says, are there people who you would like to hear an apology from? No, I don't really care. At the end of the day, just leave me alone. I wish him well. I wish him well. Like Trump would say. Like Trump would say, I wish him well. Uh-oh, shit. If you guys can hear me, the fucking stream has frozen again, so I'm gonna refresh. 1 second. Yeah, sorry guys. I hope I'm back. Let me know if I'm back. I don't know why it keeps doing that. It's really weird. But yeah, like I was saying, like there's no one who I would really want an apology from. Like I said, I wish them well. Like I just want to be left alone. That's what I want. I want people to fucking leave me alone to do my shit. And I'm open to good faith conversation. If you disagree with something that I have to say, that I've said, or a position that I hold, come at me in good faith. Don't try to put me on tribunal, because that's what they always try to do. They try to set up these sort of fake kangaroo courts where they're like, we believe that you believe this bad thing and you need to come on my stream and answer to me. And it's like, no, you're not an authority. And if you're approaching me like this, then why do I owe you anything? I don't owe you shit. Fuck off. Like, no. If you want to approach me in good faith, or you just have a disagreement and you want to have a decent conversation about it, then I'm happy to do so. I'm not somebody who's shut off. But if you're gonna fucking come at me sideways, then I'm not gonna deal with you. But from the people who I mentioned, I would just like them to leave me the fuck alone. I'd like to have nothing to do with them is basically what I'm trying to say. Let's have a look. Sorry, I'm just trying to see. I'm gonna try and read out the super chats if you've sent them. Thank you for them. At Angie Speaks, I think it's psyops from the establishment. I disagree. I think when people say that, they're sort of trying to sort of abscond responsibility. And I don't think that psyops don't happen. Sometimes psyops do happen. But I think that a lot of people use it because they're like, no, not the left. It can't be the left. It can be. It can be the left. And it has been. And it has been in my experience. I've suffered more. Like I've never had any problems with right-wing people since I've been making content, and I thought that I would. Especially because of all the scaremongering that BreadTube does, I thought that I would have a lot of problems with fascists when I started, because they were like, they're so dangerous, and they're coming after minorities on YouTube and blah 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 blah. Not once have I had any problems with any people from the far right. The majority of the racism and bullshit and cruelty that I've suffered has been from within the left. It's just the truth. Sorry. Angie Speaks, thank you for being so real in such a fake atmosphere. Thank you. Speaking out about these creators is the only way to make them realize they aren't untouchable. Keep being you, and I love your work. Thank you, but like, it's not just about the creators. It's about the fact that liberal social justice is a hoodwink. which is the point that I'm trying to make. I could care less about any of these people. I could literally care less about any of these people, and it's not about them. And I don't want you guys leaving this stream and then being like, oh, I need to go on this moral crusade against H Bomber guy. I need to go on a moral crusade against fucking Vosh. Or it doesn't fucking matter. Let them do them. At the end of the day, they're human beings, and all human beings are fallible. You know, I've done shit that probably wasn't great either. It's not about them as individuals. It's about the overall mode of liberal social justice and how it's sort of warped the dynamic within the left. And if I was to ask you guys to do anything or to take anything away from this stream, it would be to be more vigilant and mindful about these dynamics. Just be more vigilant and mindful about these dynamics, how these things are used for leverage, and how to score points in the current system, and not necessarily used for the material or social concerns of marginalized people in the way that people say they are. It's frustrating. It's really, really frustrating. And like it feels, oh, what am I doing? I'm like, sorry, the fucking because it's like opposite sides and I'm trying to like sort my hair out. Sorry. Yeah, the current system encourages people to use these identity categories as a form of leverage for themselves. It doesn't actually do anything to address the material problems that they're facing or the social problems for that fact. So, and that's the mode of operation that BreadTube has sort of fostered. It's like, oh, you're special, uwu. You're special, uwu. And I'm going to be your parasocial mommy and I'm going to tell you that you're special, uwu. And that's all there really is to it. And here's how you can use this special thing about yourself in order to gain leverage in the system. It's fucking bullshit. And it's not helping you and it's not helping me either. It's not helping any of us. It's a false fucking dichotomy. And it's dangerous. It's really fucking dangerous. Angie Speaks, your content, it was your content that freed me from a relationship that was so deeply toxic. That's really, really interesting. Don't know if I've talked about relationships before, but I'm glad that it helped you. It made me realize how, as an autistic person, I was being essentialized and objectified and treated as less. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that I was able to help you in that regard. I mean, you know, I feel like the current discourse on the left forces people to sort of overly identify with their labels, and that's dangerous. It's really dangerous, not just for you psychologically, but also in terms of how it could be used as leverage against you, because then you just become that thing. And it's very easy for people to dismiss you because you're just that thing. And it's kind of the reason why I was really reluctant to talk about this stuff or have this conversation. Because I don't want that. I don't want to just, and that's the reason why I don't talk about race in a way that's essentialized, because I don't want people to make me just that. I am Angie. I am not just a Black woman. That's only one dimension of my personality. It's only one dimension of who I am, and it's probably the least interesting dimension too. You know, it's interesting for me in terms of, you know, but it's not the entirety of my being. And I never want people to view me as this like racialized subject. It's oppressive. Vosh isn't interesting enough to be getting airtime. Someone said that. That wasn't, I didn't say that. Someone else said that. At Angie Speaks, I want to say I wish you all the best, and I am grateful for your input and your presence on here. Disappointed in H-Bomb, and I think no, don't say you don't think you can watch his stuff anymore. Don't say that, please. This isn't a cancel thing. And I know that you guys are going to still continue to support and watch their stuff. That's not what I'm doing this for. I'm doing this because I felt like I needed to say the shit that had been weighing heavily on me for a really long time, for my own sanity, and so that people would stop coming for me as well. But this isn't me trying to say that you shouldn't watch or engage with their content. They're not the way I say that I'm not essentially this. Nobody is essentially evil either. As much as Vosh can be annoying, he's a person. As much as I'm upset with H Bomber guy for the way that he treated me way back then, he's a person. person. Big Joel too is a person at the end of the day. These are people and they have value. Every single one of them has value, and they have value that they create through what they do. But it doesn't mean that I should suffer in silence about the things that have happened to me. This isn't like a Me Too type of thing where I'm like, oh, and now go and cancel these white men who have been. No, they have value as creators. Every single one of the people I've mentioned has some form of value, but so do I. And that's the point of what I'm trying to say. And I don't like being treated like somebody who has no value. That's what bothers me. And I would like people to engage with me better. Fucking StreamYard. Sorry, guys. Sorry for all the technical difficulties. Let's see. Here we go. Someone says, you don't seem to want to be generalized, but you generalize them a lot. Maybe we should all just knock shit off. I don't know. I don't see how I'm generalizing by talking about my experiences. And I don't think that saying we should all just knock shit off is appropriate in this situation. It kind of seems like hand waving away my concerns and my experiences. But if you want to do that, then that's your prerogative. Um, I really do not like breadtubers that plaster hammers and sickles and Antifa flags all over their content as a punchline, just to straight up do neoliberal identity politics. I agree. I think it's silly. I think that a lot of people are attracted to the aesthetics of radicalism, and they're sort of attracted to radical aesthetics. But really and truly, when you examine their politics beneath the surface, it's incredibly sort of neoliberal, or at least somewhat rooted in liberal ideology. And that there's nothing wrong with that, but it's something different from what I'm doing. There's nothing wrong if you're being a liberal, if that's what you want to do. There's nothing wrong if you have neoliberal ideology. Just don't get in my way, number one. And number two, it's okay for one of these things to not be like the other. It's okay for me to be different from you. The thing is, it's like, in their mind, they're like, you're different from me, so that means that you're a problem and you must be destroyed. It's fucked up. Live and let live. It's like they want a claim over the moniker of the left. They want like the sole claim over the moniker of the left. And they want to push anyone out who doesn't conform to what they believe that is. Let's see. I don't want to read some of these are really mean things about other people, which I don't encourage. I just want to make that clear. People don't agree with their project, blah blah blah. Bosch guys. More about Bosch for Bosch. Gabriel says, so how do we stop them? It's not about like Mark Fisher says, it's not about like fighting the vampire castle, it's about exiting it, which is what I've been trying to do for the last year and a half since I had sort of this political awakening and started to move more towards the ideas of the broader left, is to exit it and to move away and do something different. But then when you do that, there are inevitably people that are like, you can't be doing that and calling yourself the left. We're going to come after you. And it's like, the only thing we can do is for those of us who are so inclined anyway, I'm not saying that anyone else has to do this, I'm speaking specifically to those of us who are inclined that way, is to just move away and just do our own thing. And we are the left. We are the fucking left, whether you like it or not. You can continue to go around saying that we're not the left, but we'll never give that name up. We'll never give that moniker up. There's nothing that you can do to make us give up that moniker. Sorry. Let's see. Angie speaks. Shit. Sorry. StreamYard, it sucks. Angie speaks. You say that we should have quote unquote political concern for identity, but you haven't clarified what that means. Can you elaborate on what separates that from neoliberal identity politics? Well, clearly there's a political concern for identity. I mean, if you read Adolf Reed's The Myth of Class Reductionism, that's exactly what he says in it. But that doesn't mean that those political concerns for identity are divorced from the overall class struggle. You can withhold your labor, sorry, you can't withhold your race and make capitalists listen. You can't withhold your gender or your sexual identity and make capitalists listen. The only thing that we have over the ruling class is our labor. Our collective labor is the only leverage that we have. And that's where the political concern for identity meets the class struggle, is the fact that we are all together as workers, and we have one shared we have one shared tool against the capitalist class and one shared goal against them as well. It's really sort of annoying how the neoliberal mode has divorced these political concerns for identity from the overall class struggle. I mean, even you know Martin Luther King with the poor people's movement. you know a lot of the black activists of the past understood that the goals of anti-racism could not be achieved within a capitalist system. So a lot of these political concerns for identity are intrinsically rooted within the class struggle, and neoliberalism has obviously separated them from their radical roots and obfuscated. And that's sort of the work that we're trying to undo. We're trying to bring it back to its radical roots rather than having it be trapped in this neoliberal mode where it's all about representation and using identity as leverage for power. Um, it's fucked up. Mm, let's see. Uh, Make sure you at Angie Speaks, because I'm not going to answer questions that aren't at Angie Speaks. Let's see. At Angie Speaks, yeah, we had a bunch of normie friends over recently, going, "We hate the left." And it was really hard to argue with their reasons because it was hypocritical, cancel culture left. Well, yeah, that's the experience of the left. Nobody takes the left seriously. We're subjects of fucking ridicule, and the things that they associate with the left are some of the most pernicious aspects of modern culture, like cancel culture, for instance. And if you all that the left does is deny that it exists. Because of the left's sort of inability to self-reflect, the left will be like, cancel culture doesn't exist. Just deflect, 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 like never actually paying attention to or trying to unpick any of the ways that the larger society perceives us. Because we're right about everything. And a lot of the criticisms that the larger society has about the left, are correct. They're not wrong. And most people are apolitical as fuck. Most people, as soon as you even bring up politics, they are like running the other way. They don't want to fucking hear it. And it's precisely because of this mode. Holy shit. Sorry, I have to refresh again because I'm fucking frozen. If you can. Sorry, guys. I don't know what the fuck happened. Let me know if you can hear and see me. Um, yeah, everyone fucking hates the left, and I don't blame them because it's not a great place. Even as I am now, I can tell you I've been really active in leftist spaces for the last like fucking however long, and it's not a great place. It's a horrible place. Joe M says, "Love your words on low society. Will this live be saved?" Yeah, the live will be saved. I'm gonna leave it up for a while so that people who missed it will be able to see it. Um, uh, Benjamin says, "I agree with your points, but IDK if Joel was being racist about the hair doctor thing. You said you were at the salon and he was just responding. Well, in any other situation, like say I called Joe like a soy boy or something, and I wasn't necessarily being like transphobic or whatever, people would still come for my neck. But it's that double standard thing that I'm angry about, because I'm expected to know everything about like gender justice and the language around trans issues, but then it's kind of common knowledge that Black women's hair is a area of racial tension, and for him to be like, go to the hair doctor, you know nobody says anything about that, which I found it offensive when he said it. And I took it, I was like, is he being cheeky there? And you know what? I could give him the benefit of the doubt for it, but it was the fact that he was like trying to portray me as this aggressive, angry sort of black woman, you know, and it's a lot easier for him to portray me as like irrational and as unhinged and as angry, even though he was the one who threw the stones. He was the one who started making false accusations, and I was reacting accordingly. He was the one trying to tell people that I believe in a solely conservative working class, which is something I've never said. I've never said that, and it's not something that I believe. So that's why I assumed his comment was racial, because of how weaselly he was being around trying to make it seem like I was aggressive, and he kept using that term as well, like using these terms of like me being like over the top and irrational. And it's what these people do all the time. And it's not just him. Like I've had run-ins with people like Jack Sane and like fucking so many of these people, and they always do the same thing. They'll provoke you, and when you react, then they're like, oh, look at this aggressive fucking crazy person. And it's like it's easier for them to make me look that way. And I think they know fully well what they're doing. I think they know that it's much easier to convince people that I'm this crazy irrational person, you know, easier than it would be with other people. And yeah, that rubs me the wrong way. And even if it's something they're doing unconsciously and not maliciously, I think it's something that I should draw attention to, because yeah, I shouldn't have my credibility constantly chipped away at because of these white men on the left who have a problem with what I believe. And instead of them just having good faith conversations with me, they decide to go for my intelligence, decide to go for my affect, they decide to go for my everything under the sun except engaging with the argument. They go for my intelligence, my affect, all of the standard things that are used to shut people like me up. And it's fucked up. So that's my answer. Thank you for the 35 czar. I don't know what currency that is, but thank you anyway for that. Let's see what's going on. Don't forget to Angie speaks to me. Angie Angie speaks. So is the castle essentially the mantle of BreadTube? Yeah, I really do feel like BreadTube embodies a lot of what Mark Fisher was talking about when he was talking about the vampire castle. Um, and especially, the I don't even want to go into it because people will say I'm going too far. But like, the reason why people feel like they can go for my credibility, my affect, my level of intelligence is because of the type of people who make up the top tier of BreadTube, who are usually white men who are academics or have extensive degrees in certain things, and they are oftentimes from not working class backgrounds, and that class has interests. And I feel like that class, and I'm not saying these people specifically, but that class has kind of taken over the left and pushed people who are working class out, and pushed people who are minorities who have different positions out. That class controls the narrative of the left, and it has its interests. And I feel like in order to sort of, now that shit's getting real in the world, in order to sort of avoid this sort of like the fear of proletariat, becoming part of the proletariat, becoming plebs like the rest of us, there's this sort of new mode that has been created that allows one to use their identity in order to leverage power. That's the sort of concession that they've given to minorities so that they can continue to hold their class position over the rest of us. Which is the reason why I'm like, no, fuck liberal social justice. It's bullshit and it's holding us back. It's bullshit and it's holding us back. It's not cool. And I don't want anything to fucking do with it. Someone said escaping the Uwu castle. You guys are funny. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's escaping the Uwu castle for sure. Someone says, at Angie Speaks, what can we do to support you? This has clearly weighed heavily on you. watch my content, listen to the podcast. Um, Not just me, people, anyone you see who is a member of the broader left, or who, not a member because it sounds like it's a it's not it's rhetorically wrong. It's like rhetorically like inhibiting to say a member of, because it's not a club. It's not like a exclusive club. So say, I mean, people who basically espouse the ideas of the broader left need your support, because we don't have institutional backing, and a lot of the ideas that we talk about, a lot of the ideas that we sort of espouse are not really popular. They're not popular ideas. So support people who are espousing the ideas that are linked to, the intellectual traditions of the broader left. Like, support those people, because we are all that's basically all we have, is like the support of the people who are inclined with our content. Like, we don't have institutional backing or anything like that. So I guess that's what you could do to support. Let's see what else is on. Sorry, my head is spinning because I had the wine. At Angie Speaks, can you be a YouTuber and not engage with Twitter? Not really, because Twitter is such a huge part of the ecosystem of YouTube, especially when it comes for promoting content. And especially if you're not somebody who makes content really frequently, it's a way of sort of reminding people that you exist and keeping updated with what other people are doing. It's also really important for networking as well. Like a lot of the a lot of the a lot of the what's it called the connections that I've made, a lot of the friends that I've made, a lot of the sort of opportunities that I've been given have been through people reaching out to me because I'm available on Twitter. So yeah, that's why I stay. But I could probably engage with it a lot less. But it's hard when you feel like you're constantly on the defense, when you feel like you're constantly kind of having to defend yourself. Yeah, it's weird. Angie Speaks, how much do you think is specifically an American cultural phenomenon? Uh, I don't know. I don't think it's specifically an American phenomenon at all. I think it's something that happens everywhere where there are people who are on the left. Um, it's just part and parcel of the. It's just part and parcel of how things are right now. Um, Hang on a second. I didn't. Oh, by the way, I slipped up. Used a word that I shouldn't have used. I apologize for it. I know people are gonna fucking try to go on me for that, but I didn't mean to. It was a slip, and I was doing it in a deprecating way. But I guess there's no excuse. I apologize for using that word or using that term, and I apologize to anyone who was offended by me using that term. It just slipped out, and I've also been drinking as well, so please forgive me. Um, Hang on, let me see if there are any more questions. Uh, Blah blah blah. Angie Speaks. Um, yeah, I didn't mean to use the word. I apologize for using the word. I was using it self-deprecatingly. I didn't mean to use it. I didn't. I wasn't thinking. My bad. I didn't mean to, and I'm sorry to anyone who I offended. Um, I guess that just yeah, I'm done for tonight because I've been here for like nearly 2 hours now. So thank you for your questions, and thank you for listening to me, and thank you for considering my experience in terms of interacting with this mode. I know that a lot of you I know a lot of you, have kind of come here giving me the benefit of the doubt, and I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate your support as well. It really means a lot, and it really means a lot to know that I can talk about stuff that happens and sort of get things off my chest, and sort of like be open about my experiences and be vulnerable about my experiences as well. Like, I was really afraid coming in and doing this, and I felt fairly at ease the whole time. So, I appreciate that. And you guys are really, really, really kind. And understanding and, you know, just take away from this that there is something different and we can be better to each other, and not everyone is terrible, not everyone is bad, not everyone is someone who, including the people who I talked about, everybody is redeemable, and also everybody makes mistakes. Like just then I made a mistake. You know, everyone makes mistakes, and it's not always from this like horrible malicious place. Even the people who I am talking about, they may not have known that what they were doing felt that way to me, and I totally fucking see and I understand that, which is the reason why I don't bear anyone any ill will and I just want to be left alone. Um, but we can be better to each other and we can be more understanding of each other, which is kind of what I want, because there's so much out there in the world that's hard. And there's so much out there in the world that makes life hard for all of us in very similar ways. And the left would be better if it seemed like more of a welcoming place and more of a place where we kind of gathered together around shared interests and shared solidarity. You know, people make mistakes and people aren't perfect, but it doesn't mean that they're actually actively like pernicious and setting out to harm you. I mean, even the people who I've mentioned in this stream, I don't think that they're evil to the core. They're just like these horrible, monstrous, pernicious, awful human beings at all. They're just like me. And everybody makes mistakes and they make mistakes too. I just got tired of being quiet about those things, and I feel like I should be able to talk about them, and it shouldn't be a thing where people, you know, get their torches and pitchforks out. It's just a, okay, let's be more mindful about this mode, let's be more mindful about how this mode encourages um these bad things to happen, and let's try to do better. Let's try to sort of create a mode where we're not covering for pernicious behavior by sort of using social justice as this sort of shield, as using it as a shield, you know, or as a sort of facade that we present to the world. Whereas, you know, the motivations that are behind it are deeply rooted in you know, trying to gain leverage within the system that already exists. And that's the point that I'm trying to make in this stream. And yeah, I thank you guys for listening to me. And for the last time, because I know this is going to be the thing that people take to Twitter, I apologize for using the word. I'm not the first person who's ever used the word by on accident or whatever, and I didn't use it to be malicious, and I am sorry. So I apologize for using it. It wasn't something that was supposed to be malicious. I was using it self-deprecatingly to myself because I said something silly, but I shouldn't use it as a synonym for silly. I understand that. But anyway, thank you for listening to me. I am out. See you guys later. Goodbye.